Today's guest is Garrett Gunderson, raised in a fourth generation coal mining family in rural Utah. He went from saving coins in coffee cans to building an Inc. 500 firm and writing seven best selling books, including Killing Sacred Cows. Garrett is known for making money, a topic you can actually laugh about, with a comedy special and sold out national tour. His win then play philosophy helps people build wealth and enjoy life now, not just someday. Garrett, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited to dig in and ask you some really powerful questions for the audience. Let me start with this. You grew up in a coal mining family in rural Utah. How did that
Yep.
background shape your views on money and success and wealth?
Like initially, the way it shaped it was I just learned to be overly frugal, like miserly. That's just how my family was, right? Like they coal mines could go on strike, so you didn't know. Or my great grandfather came over from Italy and was like had to come over here because he couldn't put food on the table because he wasn't making enough money. So what I learned was like you got to hold on to what you can, you got to reduce your expenses, and I thought that was the road that you would save yourself rich, which is not true. I mean, you could become a broke, miserable millionaire if you just never spend money, but what good would it be at that point? And so that was the initial shaping until I met other people, until I started really like immerse myself in what do wealthy people really do and how's it different than I think.
So cool. I love that. What do wealthy people really do?
They're in the game of expansion and value creation. They're in the game of impact and reach or, just deep value and disruption. And so a lot of them are in the game of entrepreneurship or investing. And again, they just know you don't shrink your way to wealth. So, and they're really good at like getting great people around them. I mean, the wealthiest people, I don't like follow the same rules as like the uber wealthy, like the billionaires. They're always about other people's money. I don't always do that. A lot of times I fund things on my own. They're about other people's time. They build big organizations. I build organization for sure. And they're really about other people's ability. Look at what's going on right now with like Meta and OpenAI. They're just like, where's the talent? We're going to put so much money because human capital is the most precious capital. And I think that when people aren't as wealthy, they think that hard work is the key. But if hard work equaled wealth, then my dad would have been as wealthy as could be because he was a coal miner. So hard work with the wrong philosophy can lead to limitation or scarcity or bankruptcy even. So it's really about the right mindset and then the right methodologies.
Awesome. What would you say are some of those methodologies?
Like I think one of them is velocity instead of accumulation. Like most of the world's kind of taught like set money aside, invest early, often and always, dollar cost average, you're in it for the long haul. That's kind of like the notion of the mediocre middle class playbook. And it's this belief that, hey, if I just set money aside and I take enough risk and I wait long enough that I'm finally going to be wealthy. But the reality is they're doing that while the institutions are doing the opposite. The institutions are creating cash flow. So I believe more in this velocity factor. And so here's an easy way to describe velocity is really a lot of people think that they should live within their means, and that's good advice. But there's three ways to do it. One is you can cut back and reduce. That's kind of like the poor and middle class way. The second way is you can be more efficient within your means. We've heard over and over like really wealthy people pay less in tax, right? So that would be one way to be more efficient. Another would be pay less in interest because you've structured the best interest rates and loans, you have the right collateral. Other would be to minimize drag on your investments. So making sure you mitigate risk, making sure that you eliminate any inefficient dollars that, maybe there's expenses that don't actually perform. And then finally, design insurance properly, only insuring catastrophic things, not inconsequential. So those are what I call the four I's: IRS, investments in insurance, and interest. And if you manage those, there's like 10% of your money is just being lost to that. It boosts the bottom line. But the third way to live within your means is to expand your means. So how do you expand your means? You serve more people, you solve bigger problems, you add more value. So velocity is like the GDP, which our gross domestic product divided by the money supply. So it tells us how many times does a dollar circulate in the economy? How often are dollars, you know, recycling? And so in our own personal velocity, it's like, how do we keep inputs fixed but increase our outputs? Well, efficiency and expansion. See, budgeting is actually just reducing and eliminating, and that's a very finite game. So that's one framework. Another framework is wealth acceleration could be A, learn how to make more money and invest in your skills. B, keep more of the money you make by plugging those leaks I talked about. C, learn how to grow your money by discovering your investor DNA. Like, where are you a good investor versus where are you not? Only invest in things that you know, and then, finally grow yourself. So it's make more money, keep your money, grow yourself. That's an acceleration formula versus just cut back, reduce, eliminate, budget, which, yeah, you can kind of get ahead, but it's pretty hard to enjoy life and do it.
I love that, man. And that kind of old school mindset is more one of those keys in what you said, right? Make more money, save more money, right? But then there's multiple dimensions to that, like you said.
Yeah. Yep. And like there's saving money by being efficient and there's saving money by cutting out. And so we have to realize like not all expenses are equal. Some people have destructive expenses, uncontrollable vices, borrowing to consume. We got to eliminate those. Then there's lifestyle expenses. Just pay cash for those. Then there's protective expenses. Address them so you transfer risk. A lot of people neglect their protective expenses and it leaves them exposed. So they're a financial surprise away from starting over. And then there's a productive expenses. You put in a dollar, more than a dollar comes out, increase those as long as they're still viable and you can manage them. So by differentiating expenses, we don't treat all dollars the same. We look and say, what's going to be most effective and efficient? And when we look at money through those eyes, then it's a tool to serve us versus like something to like think there's not enough to go around and fear and hold on to and all that kind of like indoctrination I had growing up.
Mm. What do you do to help people shift their mindset around wealth and money?
A few things. One is I help them like, my book Money Unmasked, we talk about money personas and we talk about the shadow personas versus the winning personas. And the shadow personas come from isolation. Shadow personas come from myths and mythology and misinformation. And it leads people to this like fear, doubt, and worry that, they got to hold on to what they've got, take what they can, believing there's only so much to go around. So understanding a money persona and then the winning way for the winning persona to come out, it's not isolation, it's co-creation. Find someone that supports and inspires you. It's delegation. As you build momentum, offload things that aren't the very best things that you know how to do. And then it's collaboration. Find the money personas that you aren't so that you can all win together.
Mm.
And so that'd be one way. Another way is to discover their money story. Like everybody has a money story, but
Yep.
part of it is BS. What they tell people is the BS part. Not that they're intentionally lying, it's just that it's only part of the story. And it might be to protect them, it might be to hide from something, it might be because of shame, embarrassment, or guilt. And then there's the story that they only tell themselves. And until they speak that out, until they let go of that, they can't find that third layer, which is what they can't share, the stuff that's underneath, the subconscious, the sludge in the basement that holds them back. And they don't know why they're behaving that way they do. But a lot of it's just because maybe something that was said to them as a kid or happened to them as a kid. And they tucked it away, like paradoxically, like, I don't ever want to go through this again. So anything that has the feel of that, they immediately go into this like scarcity mode and they start, maybe that's like me when I was a kid, be a miser. Like, oh, something's going on. I'm gonna hold on to my money. We're gonna turn off the lights and save cash. Like just, absurd things because that's the defense mechanism. So money persona with money story, it's very powerful when we look at those two things. But one of the more powerful things, I just actually was on a military base yesterday, the Air Force Special Forces, and I was doing a theatrical keynote based upon my book, Money Unmasked. And I took them through an exercise where I was like, hey, imagine every month you have an extra $10, above and beyond everything you have, no strings attached, no taxes owed. And I have them think through it for a minute, but then I'm like, okay, now let's imagine it's $100. What are you thinking? What would you do? How do you feel? And then I said, well, imagine it's 1,000 each and every month. Then I got to 10,000, then 100,000, then a million. And I was like, at what point did you stop thinking about the money could do for you and you could buy and start thinking about value for others?
Mm.
That number is our value index where we turn to value creation versus survival. And that flip is where we can start to feel abundant, not just like hear about it. And so that's why I take people through that kind of an exercise. So whether it's a money story, whether it's a money persona, or whether it's the value index, those three combinations really kind of help people get a taste or a sense and potentially make that paradigm shift.
That's awesome. Yeah, developing the awareness of where that is for each individual themselves, right? Some people need $1 million to feel secure. Other people need only 100,000. Other people need 10 million or a billion. So,
And what's interesting is like I start that book with the phrase, like with the question, what would you do with $1 billion? Because I feel like $1 billion is so much that it's hard to just go spend.
yeah.
So immediately it has to start thinking about like, yeah, what would it take to be a steward of $1 billion? Because in my 20s, when I was asked that question by my business partner, I was like, damn, I don't really have an answer. And it made me feel kind of small. What I realized is I was thinking only about myself and not thinking enough about others, which limited me. And most people kind of limit their value because they're worried about, oh, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the ability. Those three things are only limitations if we try to do too much on our own. If we allow other people to support us as well,
Yep.
as we if we can create a compelling vision that they want to be part of and that we're willing to commit to, even if we don't know how to get it at the moment we speak it into existence, we start to rally around it. Like, there's been so many examples of this, whether it was FedEx saying we're gonna, get a package to someone within overnight to anyone on the planet. It's like that was impossible, but it became possible. Or whether you believe in the moon landing or not, I guess is the next one. But JFK said we're going to land a man on the moon, return him safely home within this decade, right? Then you look at like people that are saying we're going to colonize Mars. Like these are all things they speak into existence before they exist. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "I have a dream," and he spoke something into existence that didn't exist. And so that's the power of vision.
Mm.
But we can't let money, time, or ability cloud us because other people can support us if we're committed to it.
Yep. I love that. I was listening to one of your YouTube videos about AI. I want to talk to you more about AI too, obviously, because that's wealth creation to the max. But you were saying it's not just about using the tools, right? You need the vision to have the AI do the right thing. Otherwise, again, it's just more busy work, even for AI. So I want to circle back to you on that. But before I do, the other thing that you were saying, a piece that so many people miss on like wealth is just like you're talking about so much already is other people, right? We always try to do it on our own. We don't leverage people around us and collaborate and expand the pie together. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, it's often learned behavior from the time we're young, because it's out of fear and preservation. It's out of just not having the skill set to maybe network or to manage or employ, and it feels risky to have, a payroll. So what happens is people just try to do everything they can on their own to save money at the expense of their energy, at the expense of their life, at the
Mm.
expense of their capabilities that are greatest they could bring to the world. And it takes like it's like a muscle. You have to exercise it to get there for most people. Maybe some people are just more have an aptitude and ability to go that way. But most, I mean, you think about it, most of the indoctrination from financial gurus is cut back, pay off your mortgage, save, put all your money into a retirement plan. It's nothing about investing in yourself. It's nothing about growing a business. It's often not about real estate assets. There's different
Mhm.
types of people that do talk about that. It's often not about intellectual property like what you're doing here. It's always very traditional. It's like put money in stocks. That's someone else's company, someone else's vision. You've never been in the boardroom. You don't really know who the manager is. You just have someone gathering the assets. It doesn't create cash flow. Most people don't have enough downside risk. They diversify because they're not sure what to do. And this is why the system's so broken.
Yeah,
It comes from a place of ignorance.
absolutely. What are some of the money myths? You're talking about the stories that hold people back. What are some of the money myths that hold people back?
Yeah, I alluded to three of them. And it's that the first myth is it takes money to make money. It
Yeah.
doesn't take money to make money. It takes relationships and ideas. It takes value in exchange. I mean, sure, you can make money on your money, but to really make money, it's about value creation. Another one is high risk equals high return. Like risk means chance of losing. So how does increasing your chance of losing help you win? It doesn't. The only reason people think risk equals return is because they hear about these heroic, crazy stories where someone does something that's an anomaly and they treat it like it's everything. And then they go, oh, I want to go down that path. Or someone that gets lucky and they confuse luck with skill.
Mhm.
Or, there's a lot of reasons. I think it's because a lot of investments are terrible. So they have to say, oh, risk equals return. And, it's a foolish notion. The people that are the wealthiest, the best money managers, the Warren Buffett, those kind of guys, they are masters at mitigating risk. That is their gift. That's why they can get huge returns. And the people that
Yep.
just take risk lose too much money, far too much over time. Another one is you're in it for the long haul. Like the long haul, when does that end? What does that mean, long haul? I mean, yeah, thinking long term is fine, but what about creating financial independence, creating cash flow from your assets? What about like measuring whether it's working or not? And if it doesn't, don't just keep waiting and losing money. There's just so much mindlessness in the world of finance. But I think the three biggest myths that are revolutionary in the book is one, the finite pie. That's a myth. like AI is the first that's really going to prove, and this is why people are scared of AI more than anything. Now I
Yeah.
get like AI and deep fakes and who knows what they do. Do they go humanity's not needed anymore? I mean, I don't know all that kind of stuff. That's like there's a lot of doomsday that way. But the other doomsday is people go, oh, AI is coming to take your job. I'm like, the reality is that's what they said about the printing press in the 15th century. And what's going to happen is AI is going to help people that are valuable become even more valuable, be even more effective. But that's because they have a vision. It's because they're up to something. People that are afraid of it are typically not utilizing it or not sure what to do with it because maybe they're just not up to something, or maybe they're just hoping that they can keep their job even though they hate it, and they get addicted to the past instead of creating a more bright future. And so the finite pie has us think if AI takes something, there's less left over for humans. But the reality is, it allows us to produce more and expand the value and grow the pie. That's the big thing. And that chapter is probably the most important chapter of Killing Sacred Cows. Is if you can't conquer scarcity, no amount of luck, saving, or discipline will ever save you. So it's really critical. And then two more myths, real quick. One is avoid debt like the plague. One is most people misidentified debt. They think that any loan is debt, but the technical definition of debt is on a balance sheet, assets versus liabilities. If I have more assets than liabilities, it's either called net worth or equity. Equity is the opposite of debt. So if someone borrowed 250 grand to secure a $500,000 asset, the world says they just went into debt 250 grand, but the opposite is true. They went $250,000 into equity because 500 minus 250 is 250. And so most people think, oh, I shouldn't borrow, but inflation means that the loans that you have, they become more and more efficient because of inflation every single year. And inflation usually pushes the assets that the loans are against up while the value of the loan goes down. So that's a huge strategic advantage. And I'm not saying everyone should borrow, but I say you don't dogmatically go, oh, I would just pay everything off. Well, you're using really valuable dollars today to pay off really low value dollars from the future. And everybody goes, oh, but I'm saving all the interest. No, because we always have an interest cost, whether we borrow and pay interest to the institution or whether we pay cash and we forfeit the right to earn interest. Wealthy people know what opportunity cost is. Poor people don't. And so they don't measure. They just look at what they could save versus what they would gain. And the last thing is self-insurance. Like, sounds strange, but it's a really concept that is very confusing for most people. They think, oh, I'm going to self-insure. Well, that means you don't have insurance. And it means you're going to spend at least $1 of your own cash for $1 of insurance. I would say let's find ways to get pennies on the dollar where you can transfer us to multi-billion dollar companies so that you could free up your cash. And then again, think more on what I could earn versus what I save. And this is again the big thing about expanding your means, thinking productively, and not just in a miserly way. And that's a revolutionary for it's revolutionary for some minds, and it frees them up, and others they totally get it and they've been doing it.
Absolutely. I love that. What was the thing? Oh yeah, the debt thing, right? It's like for sure it's credit card debt, right? Don't get into credit
Yeah,
card debt
yeah,
unless you can get a bigger return on the interest you're paying on your credit card. But I doubt, well,
right.
sometimes you can, but you got to be
Right,
really,
because a lot of times it's 29% or
yeah,
20%, but if like this house I'm sitting in right now, 2.75%, that's some cheap money, and
yeah,
I get a guaranteed double that. And I could put money in treasuries or cash value insurance and get almost double what the cost is here. So I'm going to be way further ahead having this loan than having
yeah,
paid it off and not having the cash.
yep. It's wild how people don't make that distinction, right? It's like basically poor people have all the credit card debt, rich people have the other debt, right? To get loans for houses and properties and things like that, where they could leverage it and make more money on the debt. So,
What's also interesting is a lot of these gurus talk out of both sides of their mouth.
yeah,
They say you should never go into debt, yet they tell people to buy bonds. Well, what are bonds? They're debt.
yep,
And they're like, well, that's a corporation. Well, what are corporations made up of? People. So why exactly are they saying you should put money in bonds and then you should pay off your loan because you should never be enslaved to the lender, that you're a slave to the lender, that you're paying all this interest? I'm like, oh, well, guess what? You have other people paying you interest. Again, it's just understanding hurdle rates, opportunity cost, value of money, cost of money. And we're just poorly trained in this. I mean, I went
yeah,
to school for finance, and one of my personal finance classes taught me the opposite of what my corporate finance classes taught. And I decided that corporate finance had the right information and the more useful information. And I based it, what I teach, on actual economics and corporate finance, and where personal finance was one-dimensional, short-sighted, riddled with misinformation, not looking at the big picture. And
Mm,
so, that's, I guess, one of the good things that happened about going to the university.
yeah, that's awesome. And you have, I always tell my clients, right? It's about education. And you have so many, I'm on your website, so many great books. You mentioned Money Unmasked. There's Killing Sacred Cows. I like the What Would the Rockefellers Do? That looks like a great book. And you have this children's
That's my
book
most
too.
popular one. It's my most
The
popular one.
Rockefellers one.
Yeah. We've sold hundreds of thousands of copies, and it's just
Nice.
makes legacy very accessible, very available. It distills down the most core concepts that the Rockefellers did to pass on wealth for 6 generations. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, if people just DM me on Instagram, Garrett B. Gunderson, Peak Humans,
Yeah.
I'll hook them up with those 3 books
Nice.
on
That's
audio.
amazing.
Yeah, we'll just give
That's
them those audio books.
that's awesome, man. That's super generous. Thank you. The Rockefellers one sounds cool. I read John Rockefeller's biography, Titan. And what's one of the lessons that you talk about in the book that the Rockefellers would do?
So they look at 2 critical ways to pass on wealth. See, the Vanderbilts had more money than the U.S. Treasury at one time, yet within 54 years of Cornelius's death, the first Vanderbilt died broke because they didn't have a trust.
Mm,
So the Rockefellers used trusts, and those trusts are revocable trusts for like someone who's on their way up, irrevocable trusts like asset protection trusts for people who have millions of dollars. And what it allows you to do is own nothing, control everything if it's an irrevocable trust, and it allows you to spell out what you want to have happen. The second thing they did was they bought life insurance on every Rockefeller heir. So every time someone died, it helped replenish the trust. So there were funds there. And then they could self finance everything within the family and earn the interest themselves versus pay institutions. And they didn't let the kids just be entitled to it. You had senators, bank presidents, you had, vice president of the United States, you had people that were definitely up to things and using this to advance. Now, there's a lot of, different opinions about the Rockefellers and what they did with pharmacology. The book has nothing to do with that. It has only to do with like how do they protect, preserve, and perpetuate wealth for 6 generations, where most families lose it within 3. What is that difference? How did that happen? And that's really the focus of the book.
wow, that's really cool. I love that. And then this children's book is pretty cool too. I Am Money. Is that a children's book that you have?
Yeah, Julia Cook is a prolific children's author. She sold about 4 million copies of children's books, and
Uh huh.
we teamed up because she took my content and made it kid friendly, and she just makes it so much more fun. She knows
Yeah.
how to speak kid. Like I've tried to write a kid's book without her, and it was awful. So thank God she came along. And I mean, here's a secret to that book: every adult's going to learn as well. Oh look,
Yep.
I'm in my wife's office today, and she actually has a copy of What the
Oh,
Rockefellers Do.
nice. There it
I
is.
didn't know.
That's cool. I want to, dude. I bought this other book. I forget what it's called, but it's basically, oh yeah, less letters John Rockefeller wrote to his son.
Yeah,
And I
yeah, I
was
have that.
like, well, I was like, this looks kind of cool, obviously. But then I got it, and I'm like, how come I never heard of this before? How come these letters were never released before? And then I was reading it, and I'm still not 100% sure. I'd love to see what you think. But I'm like, is this AI? Like did somebody just use AI to like write this and make this up, or was these
It's
real
been around
letters?
for a little bit. I've had the book for several years, so I think
So
it's
it's
yeah,
legit.
yeah. I think
Okay.
so. I
Because
think so.
I was just wondering because I never heard of it before until recently. So I'm like, why would these not have been
I
released
mean,
like
and
a long time ago?
that's the era we're in, right? Like because you could do something like that with
Yeah.
AI pretty easy. So yeah.
Yep. Cool.
None
And
of
then
my
you
books
all,
have been written by AI, but I do use AI to help me find and cite resources. I don't let it
yeah.
just tell me stuff. I make it cite articles and show me resources so that like I can shorten my research time for sure.
Oh yeah. It's an amazing assistant, right? And tool. And it actually helps me think more clearly, right? Again, if you're not, like you said in the YouTube video about AI I was watching too, it's just going to enhance and magnify more of the person that's using it, right? So if you're lazy and like trying to take shortcuts, you'll probably just use AI to try to do nothing. But if you're actually building, creating, like making stuff happen, you're going to use it to just propel yourself even more and create even more value for the world.
Definitely. I feel like I've only scratched the surface, but it's already made things, you know, more like, dude, here's one of my best moments, like best and worst moments. I had a big webinar coming up and I spilled some water right on my keyboard and it shorted it out. I couldn't get the computer to work. So
Damn.
I grabbed my son's computer and then grabbed, like, because I hadn't saved the outline anywhere but on that computer, but I had an old outline and I had my book, and within 36 minutes I had a new prepared thing because I only had like 45 minutes before this webinar, and the webinar went really, really well. That's where AI was super helpful. That I could just upload an entire book and say, here's my outline. I need to pull these key concepts. It did that in 15 minutes, and I could go through and I could bullet point like stuff that would be not in the book that I could advance, a new story, so there'd be unique angles. But otherwise, that would have taken like 5, 6 hours, right, to
Yeah.
do that. And that's where it's super helpful. We'll see if it kills us. We'll see if like there's all these movies now that show like all this deep fake that's creating war, and some of them are kind of satire and funny, others are more dystopian. But well, I don't have the intelligence to know everything that's going to happen that way. But I do know at this point, it's an amazing tool to be more productive.
Yep. It is, man. It's incredible. Um, I want to ask you more about AI too, but still circling back to some of your stuff because we're talking about education too. You have some great events that people can go to too, right? You have your multiplier event and your cash cabin if people wanted to get help with
So
that.
Cash Cabin is for fairly successful people that would like to have a paradigm shift around money, but
Yep.
get their financial house in order, save a bunch of tax, build their financial team, and then really establish like what's the biggest vision that they could go for. I love helping them, establish that. Multiplier is my community. I teach every single week on either make more money, keep your money, grow yourself, and then we have one-on-one coaches, and we have a big financial team of accountants, attorneys, and that kind of stuff to support the back end. And yeah, so we have those kind of things. If people want to ask, we have a virtual masterclass coming up called the Money Multiplier Masterclass, and that's like day one is where you financially set, not set, and where's your blind spots so that people know exactly what's going on and can build a different, they could address the things that would confiscate their wealth. Day two is all cash flow. Where can they find money, plug leaks, keep more of what they make without having to cut back? And then day three is how do we take all of this and build the infrastructure for action and make sure that it all comes to fruition? So that's like $97, which used to cost $6,000 when I did it in person and live for 2.5 days. Now it's 3 evenings, and it's like I don't have to pay for hotels. I don't have to pay for food. It's like let's just it's high leverage, so they can just ask about that in the DMs as well. Those are a couple things we have going on.
That's awesome. The Money Multiplier Masterclass.
Yep, yep.
When is that happening?
It's not till September of this year,
Okay.
but 2025. But when they get it, we start giving them cool bonuses like tax navigators to help them get the tax checklist, or
Nice.
different resources that we've built to help them prepare. Phone call with the team to establish like what their biggest priorities are. So even though it's a little ways off, depending on when people watch this, it's something that we start building the value immediately.
Yep. I love that. Very cool. That's great. Great example of how you're using AI to add more value, and then also it makes costs a lot cheaper for people. That's super
Right.
cheap that you're offering people to join for only $97, which is awesome.
Yeah, we have this program called X1 Wealth Labs. I'm the brand ambassador for it, and it's basically, for like $100 a month, people can have this entire AI suite where they can upload their taxes, and it tells them where they're overpaying. They can upload their, trust. It'll tell them where the issues are. It'll show them what their economic independence number is. It'll give them like, full feedback to really understand what's going on with their financial picture. And it's like the tools that if you built that with actual human beings. That's what the uber wealthy
Wow.
have. And you're talking about up to like probably costs like 18 grand a month for all those tools to have human beings do all of it. And that's the cool thing is now it makes it where the person who's not there can actually have the same resources. Like that's exciting to me.
That's incredible, man. So cool. With your win then play approach, can you elaborate on that, what that means, and how can people apply that?
A lot of people are just stuck playing not to lose, holding to what they got, you know, cutting back, reducing all that stuff we talked about at the beginning. Or there's people playing to win, but playing to win is only focused on the future, never enjoying the present, always on this treadmill. It's more, bigger, better, faster, but now it's always someday. So it's still kind of it's a losing game because it's like, well, to me, it's being present. If you can't be present, then all this other stuff doesn't really matter. And so win then play is you design the game worth playing, and you've already won. That the win's in the work, that you enjoy the process along the way. That once you've established a vision that's compelling, you've won the game. Now you're just playing the game instead of like trying to get somewhere or addicted to outcomes. So it's how you design a life you don't want to retire from. That's win then play.
I love that. So many people try to climb this ladder to then someday allow themselves to feel a certain way, right? So you inverse that where it's like when you're winning already, like you just said. I love that.
Yep. Already won. Yep.
Very cool. Um, let's talk about some of the AI stuff. What are you excited about with AI? How is it? How should people think about it in their lives to really expand their wealth and impact?
Well, we do this deep dive discovery process where we talk to someone, for like 45 minutes and find out whether they have financial confidence, whether they have concern, whether they're overpaying taxes, whether they have the loan structured properly, all that. And what's nice is I want that I always want that to exist with the human being. I like that interaction. But if we can have AI record it, and then we're trying to build out the infrastructure. We don't have it figured out yet, but it's close because it takes our guys sometimes 1 to 2 hours to create the report of findings off of that deep dive discovery.
Mm.
Imagine if we have an audio that goes in and then gives us like at 80% of the way there. And so now it's 15 to 20 minutes or less. It allows us to serve more people without having to hire more people and give them the same value. So, I've got like content creators where I've got all my content. And so when I'm writing inside of there and it's learning my voice. And what it's doing is it's helping me, be an editor for me. So I don't have to have a human being do a lot of the editing that I was doing in the past, which means it's just on the fly. It's quick. I can get it done. You know, um, there's ways that I can, if I meet with someone, I can look them up on GenSpark, and it tells me so much. So I have an understanding of what makes them tick, what's important to them, who they are a little bit, which allows me to connect with them quicker. There's so much out there. I mean, just even GPT o3, like when I was like, how can I make this the most epic Mother's Day for my wife? And I wrote 5 paragraphs about who she is. And it was like what it told me to do was phenomenal, right?
Mm.
And it was like, I could have thought of some of it, that others was like, I had no clue because it knew places I'd never been to that I could buy things. And it was, it's just like, these are like almost basic things at this point. But sometimes we just got to start with the basics. Like, where are you in the mundane? Where do you feel you're redundant? Where do you feel like it's drudgery? What are the details and necessary things that are so annoying that AI could take over? That if it could do it, then we could be in community, we could be in connection, we could be talking with people versus like working on their balance sheets. We've been using an AI accounting for one of our firms. Like just it does all of our accounting for us with
Yeah,
AI. So that's amazing.
incredible. That's what my friend Evan Ryan says. I had him on the podcast also. He has a company called AI as Your Teammate. Use AI to automate all the boring tasks so
Yep.
we could do what humans need to do best, which is creativity and connect with each other,
Yes.
listen better, and be together. So I love that.
Yep.
The well, oh yeah, you said GenSpark. I never heard of GenSpark. I just looked it up. So it's kind of like
Yeah,
a
GenSpark.ai. It's like a super agent. You get to like say, hey, tell me which markets I need to be looking at. Hey, tell me about this person. It processes data really fast.
cool, nice. So it could do like background info updates and things
Yeah,
like that. Have you tried out
exactly.
Yup? Have you tried out Yup AI?
No.
That's a really cool one. It uses different, there's like, I didn't realize there's over like 500 apparently language models, and it just pairs up two of them at the same time. And you have like a question or something you want to do. And then it gives you
Yeah.
both. And then all you got to do is give it feedback, right? You're training the AI. And then when you do that, you get points. And I can't remember exactly what the points are for, but the points let you do just more cool stuff on the platform.
Nice.
Yeah.
Boom.
But this looks great too. I'm going to start using GenSpark. Nice. Um, how important is for people to, in terms of like building wealth, building their own business, being an entrepreneur? What do you think?
It's helpful but they've got to be the right DNA for it. I mean,
Yep.
there's a lot of wealth in business. There's a lot of failure in business. But I remember reading a book once, and it was like, hey, 4 out of 5 businesses fail, so don't start a business. Just put your money in the established companies like an index fund. And I was like, well, guess what? 95% of people that put their retirement plans in the stock market aren't financially independent at age 65. So that's 95% failure rate, which is worse than 80% failure rate.
Yep.
So I'm kind of, I'm partial and biased towards business because I work primarily with business owners and entrepreneurs, and I'm an entrepreneur. But we need entrepreneurs. We need people that work with them to make it
Yep.
all happen. So, and maybe they could just have upside potential or get some additional compensation for boosting the bottom line. So it's not that you have to be an entrepreneur. There's people that obviously like big CEOs and people that make it big because they work for a company and get stock options and stuff like that and their employees, but it's just not my path. It's not the way I would want to go. Just like there's a lot of people that get wealthy by investing in real estate. That's not my path either. It's
Mm,
mine's intellectual property. So you find your investor DNA, you find your path, you find out how you work and find the system that's right for you. Just because one person does something doesn't mean the next person should, because modeling is confusing if you're like, I'm going to model that behavior because you are a different person, because you have different skills, you have a different soul purpose, is what I call it, SOUL. It's your different abilities, passions, it's your different values, and so you've got to leverage what's right for you. And knowing your money persona can help that. There's other profiles that help with that, but don't chase something. Get clear about what you want instead.
totally right. Starts with your vision and being true to yourself and knowing your true
Yeah,
essence.
yeah. And part
Absolutely.
of finding the vision might be doing some things that you find are helpful temporarily, but not your long-term career. I mean, that's just that might be part of the process. That's okay.
Yeah. So speaking of that, you also have a comedy special about money. So obviously you have a passion for comedy too. And it's kind of cool how you figured out a way to integrate these to
Yeah.
most people. It's like two totally different worlds, right? But I love how you've integrated that. So tell us
I
more about
wasn't
that.
gonna be I wasn't gonna be the funniest comedian, but I figured I could be the funniest money comedian.
Yeah.
It's like a one of one. So yeah, Amazon Prime, The American Ream, Garrett Gunderson. That's my comedy special. We took the topic of like everything from making fun of insurance commercials to crypto to making fun of like people being super cheap but saying they're frugal to making fun of just the conversations I've had with my family and kids, and so it's got a variety to it. Some of the myths that we talked about here today, I tackle them in a humorous way through the special. So it's like 90% entertainment, 10% learning. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
I might say a nice statement that like people could think about, but it's really just about reaching people to make them laugh about a topic that's really intimidating normally, and it's just fun as shit for me to do comedy. I like it.
That's so funny, man. I'm looking at it right now. This looks hilarious. I like the image of you with the money all over you flying around.
Yeah, man. With the lighting a match and it's burning in the background, and yeah,
Yeah. That's great. Well, I think it's such a good example, and also going with your win then play or play.
yep.
What was it? Play then win.
Win then play, win then play.
Win then play. Right. So, but like enjoying it, like, dude, enjoy life now. I'm sure you've had sad stories too, right? Of friends passing way earlier than they expected, right? So, that's awesome that you live that and share that with people. Were you always like a comedian kind of guy, like making jokes, being silly as a kid?
My uncles are hilarious. My dad's got a good dry sense of humor. My family parties were getting together. And when I was a kid, I'd try to learn all the jokes and repeat them. And then, eventually got to a place where I would start telling these jokes for family reunions that were inappropriate, probably get me canceled. But my grandma, who was very religious, she loved them. And I had to tell them every year. And so that was definitely my start. But I've been telling jokes for a long time, and then started telling my own jokes in 2017, where I really
Yeah,
like went up and started doing stand up. So,
that's funny. Do you remember the first joke you've ever told, or like your first joke you ever came up with?
the first joke I ever told was one I repeated from my uncle in second grade and had to go to the principal's office. It was very racist. I didn't know. I was young.
You
So
can't say it here. No, I want to hear it.
it's just pretty racist. I would, it's like, although I was having dinner with one of my clients the other day, and he goes, it's easy to be a comedian. You just have to be racist. I was like, damn, like that's kind of funny, but unfortunate. So yeah, I went to the principal's office. I went to a Catholic school. Got in trouble for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like, it's like one of my son's first jokes that he remembers forever was, my wife's like, he loves telling jokes, so she's helping him find jokes online, and she tells him a joke like without reading all the way through it because it's like she's Google's like jokes for kids, and it says, "Why did the chicken cross the basketball court?" Because the ref was blowing fouls. And
Ah,
so, like, it's like my son was young, didn't know what it meant, but dude, he
oh
could
my
tell that,
God.
got a reaction, and he still remembers it to this day.
That's so funny. Fat fowls are female chickens for people. I think I'm sure I read on that, right? Yeah. Okay. There you go. That's fun. So your fun has he's got some of the DNA from you too.
He opened for me in my comedy special. He did 5 minutes. He crushed it. He was
That's
really good.
so cool. Really?
He's not really doing it right now, but he did it for a while and was really, really great at it.
That's funny. He's like Dave Chappelle. He's taking some time off.
Yeah, man. I mean, he started at 13 and now he's taking time off at 17.
Yeah. That's cool. Is the comedy special this one, the American Reamer, or a different one?
No, that's it. That's the special. Mhm.
Oh, okay, cool. So if I watch this, we'll see your son do the opening. Yeah.
No, you could see him in the trailer, but
Okay.
we didn't. It's not part of the special. He just did it for the people that were there that night.
Cool. Sweet, man. Let me ask a couple more questions back to the money stuff for people for actionable takeaways. So, if somebody is feeling stuck financially, well, and I know there's a lot to this, right? It's a big question, and they could definitely go read Garrett's books, check out his website. But what's like the first step you tell them to take if somebody's feeling stuck?
I mean, the first step is you've got to like have someone that like that co-creator, someone that supports and inspires you. Like if you're feeling stuck, talk to a peer, talk to a mentor, be honest, right? All progress begins with being honest. So that'd be step one. And then, step two would be mindful cash management. Start paying yourself first, plug your financial leaks to do it, set the money in a separate account, build up 6 months of liquidity so you have a peace of mind fund and you have a way to capitalize an opportunity, automate those savings, and then learn how to be a better investor. Don't just invest without knowing where to invest.
Yeah.
So figure out your lane, discover your investor DNA, like where you're going to invest, and then focus on that, grow that
Yep.
skill. Don't be passive about it. The more active you are up front, the more passive the income comes later on.
Yeah. I love that. And then definitely invest in Bitcoin too, everyone. What do you think about
I,
Bitcoin?
I'm
I'm
a
big on
fan.
Bitcoin.
I don't like it. I mean, every other crypto thing I've done has been garbage, but Bitcoin is like, truly decentralized versus everything else and
Yeah.
deflationary because it's, got a finite number. Like, yeah, I'm a Bitcoin guy. I mean, I think people need to understand what they're getting into. I don't care if it's volatile. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
bother me if it goes up or down. I'm like, all right, that's just part of the ride. It's a new
Yep.
technology.
Yep. It's insane. Again, I don't know how true these numbers are, but I think they kind of just when I think about the history of Bitcoin in the markets, it seems pretty accurate. But just the Bitcoin ROI since 2008 when it came out to now versus real estate and the stock market, it just blows it all away. It's unbelievable.
Crushes it. Yeah, crushes
Yeah.
it.
So what now I kind of like tailored back to, I'm like, I used to get caught up in some of the other cryptos, but I'm just like Bitcoin, call it a day. And
Yeah.
I think that's a good approach. Again, not financial advice, but I always tell people anyway, just to buy some Bitcoin. Even you should always invest a certain amount of your income and then a
Yeah,
certain amount of that
my
investment.
kids are putting 50% of their income into it right now. They
Boom.
they both just take and put half of it in there. And, they
That's
started
awesome.
that like a year ago.
Do they manage their own wallet and everything?
Yeah, I help them a little bit, but they have their
Yeah,
own wallets, they have
that's
their own
cool.
ledgers. Hmm.
Amazing, man. Cool. Well, dude, I love the work you're doing, man. It means
Hey,
a lot to me.
this
Finances
was
was
fun.
a challenge for me growing up. So I think it's so important for people to learn these skills. If people want to connect with you, learn more about you, they can go to your website, which
Yeah,
is Garrett.
GarrettGunderson.com. GarrettGunderson.com.
Cool. And if they want the books or to check out the masterclass,
Garrett B. Gunderson. Garrett B. is in boy at Instagram. Put peak humans in there, and
yep.
we'll hook them up.
Awesome, man. Thanks so
All
much,
right.
Garrett. It's been great.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely.